China Electronics Technology Group has touted its JY-26 radar system that boasts a 500-kilometer detection range, metric wave anti-stealth capability, and 3D long-range warning radar. However, by early 2025, under the night skies of Isfahan, Iran, it was proven this was nothing but empty words. Israeli F-35I Adair stealth fighter swiftly penetrated Iran's air defense network. When it arrived, no one saw it. When it left, no one knew. Despite Iran's heavy investment in Chinese radar, command, and missile system, these systems were rendered ineffective during a real high-intensity airstrike. This was not just a military defeat, it was a costly buyer's showcase. China had marketed its anti-stealth capabilities to the world, and Tehran bought into it. The result? These highly praised systems failed to respond in the face of enemy unable even to sound the alarm. The red flag disaster in South Asia. If Iran's failure can be blamed on its chaotic system and the difficulty of integrating the equipment, then another, even more humiliating defeat has unfolded in another country. This time the target was China's closest iron-clad friend, Pakistan. It was a disaster that struck like a second lightning bolt, hitting the same pillar of lies. Pakistan, a model client of China whose air defense system is nearly entirely equipped with Chinese-made technology. The arsenal is a full suite of Chinese military equipment, the HQ-9BE long-range, HQ-16FE medium-range, and HQ-7BE short-range air defense systems. The disaster was not unexpected. This was not the first time. Back in 2022, India accidentally fired a BrahMos missile that entered Pakistani-controlled airspace for hundreds of kilometers without any effective response from Pakistan. At the time, Chinese military media defended the incident as peaceful restraint. But this time, the strike was direct. On May 10th, India launched a carefully planned saturation missile attack led by two powerful weapons. The first is the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, co-developed by Russia and India. It travels at speed close to 3 Mach, leaving only seconds for a reaction. The second weapon was the Franco-British Scalp EG stealth cruise missile, which is also known as Storm Shadow in the UK. Capable of flying at low altitudes, it becomes nearly invisible on radar. Pakistan, the defending side, was ironically a showcase client for China's air defense weapons. It was equipped with the HQ-16FE, held by Chinese media as the core of regional air defense, and the more advanced HQ-9BE, which is said to be close in performance to Russia's S-400 and at the same technical level as the Chinese People's Liberation Army's own system. These are all star products from Beijing's weapons arsenal. According to the Chinese military's own propaganda, the HQ-9's parameters include a maximum interception range of 200 kilometers, a response time of under 10 seconds, and the ability to track up to 100 targets simultaneously. In theory, these weapons should be more than capable of handling these two powerful missiles from India. However, the reality was different. The HQ-9 radar system didn't even recognize the targets. Through satellite images, military enthusiasts on Chinese social media uncovered that the HQ-9 unit deployed in Punjab had not even activated its combat readiness procedures. The entire system from start to finish appeared to be in a state of slumber. Pakistan's Ministry of Defense remained silent, and the Chinese government refused to comment. This time, they couldn't even use the excuse of selling an incomplete version. Some may argue that Pakistan still had the more advanced HQ-19 system, a strategic missile defense system designed to intercept intercontinental missiles outside the atmosphere. However, using the HQ-19 for air defense is not more effective than the HQ-9 in terms of professional capability. The final toll is that at least 5 military bases were hit. At the southern Bolari Air Force Base, a BrahMos missile precisely penetrated an F-16 hangar, killing 5, including a squadron leader on the spot. There are even rumors that India's missiles even struck the entrance of Pakistan's nuclear weapons storage facility in Karana Hills. This marks the first time in human history that a nuclear-armed country's weapons arsenal has been directly attacked. This attack fully validated India's missiles' unparalleled penetration capability and China's missile system's near-zero interception ability. Faced with two equally disastrous failures, one in the Middle East, the other in South Asia, one a top-tier stealth fighter and another a saturation missile attack, did Beijing finally admit its product's fatal flaws? No. Instead of accepting responsibility, Beijing created a more contradictory story. Beijing's response: shifting the blame. In response to Iran's failed defense and Pakistan's defeat, Beijing avoided taking responsibility for the failures of its systems. When Israeli F-35s entered Iranian airspace undetected, Beijing's response was to distance itself from the incident. For the Iranian failure, China claimed that the Bava 373 system, which was based on Chinese technology, was not the same as the original HQ-9, as it was an Iranian copy. They argued that the JY-27 radar was disabled by unprecedented electronic warfare. As for the HQ-9, China stated that the system was never designed to counter the F-35, despite its previous promotion as capable of doing so at air shows. This defense mirrors the CCP's long-standing strategy, selling modified versions of its weapons while retaining control over the core technology. If issues arise, China can claim that the buyer used a modified version and not the original system. Beijing argued that Pakistan's air defense network had gaps because it had bought only limited quantities of the HQ-9 and HQ-16 systems. This approach is part of Beijing's broader strategy to avoid acknowledging product deficiencies. Instead, the narrative has shifted to the idea that the failure was due to insufficient purchases rather than a flaw in the weapons themselves. It highlights Beijing's reluctance to address the true issues behind its weapon systems while attempting to shift the blame onto the buyers. Peeling back the layers, the thunder struck by lightning, a technical autopsy. The Chinese government consistently finds excuses to reframe every defeat as an outcome of external factors, but lies are still lies. Let's begin with their shield, the air defense system. The core of this shield has two components: the so-called God's Eye radar, which is touted as being able to detect everything, and the HQ missiles claimed to intercept anything. First, let's examine the God's Eye, the JY-27A. Meter wave radar has been promoted by Chinese media as a counter to the F-35. However, at least two JY-27A systems have already been destroyed by Israel's F-35s in Syria, failing to detect the threat in time. Why does this happen? The so-called anti-stealth capability is a technical trap. While meter wave radar does have some advantages in detecting stealth coatings, its fatal flaw is poor precision and vulnerability to interference. It's like an old black and white television that displays snow instead of a clear picture when subjected to strong signal interference. Israel's Air Force, with its top-tier electronic warfare capability, can create an electronic storm that renders the JY-27 useless. Next, the missiles. Why did the HQ-9 and HQ-16 fail to intercept India's supersonic and stealth cruise missiles? The answer lies in the so-called advanced technology, which is built on false promises. First, there is a critical delay in response time. Users with military background have reported that the export version of the HQ-9 has structural flaws in its fire control link. Its interception logic requires several processing steps, including target recognition, path confirmation, locking, and authorization. This process introduces a delay of 3 to 5 seconds, which is fatal when facing maneuvering missiles like BrahMos. For supersonic targets, 3 seconds means the entire battle is lost. The HQ-9 doesn't fail to fire, it fails because by the time it reacts, the enemy has already struck and retreated. Now, if the ground-based defense shield is ineffective, what about their prized aerial spear? This brings us to the highlight: how the F-17 Thunder aircraft failed to combat. The JF-17 Thunder, a joint China-Pakistan development, has been touted as the poor man's F-16 and is the backbone of Pakistan's Air Force. But in the May 10th airstrike, it not only failed to take off and engage an enemy, but it also couldn't even protect its own pilot. A squadron leader was killed at the base when a missile struck. Why did this happen? Because it is not a modern combat aircraft. Its earlier models used the outdated Russian RD-93 engine, which has poor high-altitude performance and a high failure rate. The radar is also an outdated model with a detection range of less than 70 kilometers, making it unsuitable for all-weather operations. If the aircraft had any real utility, the market would provide the most honest feedback. Let's look at the orders. The F-35 has over 3,500 units ordered. France's Rafale still has over 200 unfulfilled orders, and even the F-16V has 180 new orders. As for China's J-10CE and JF-17, the number of orders remaining could last only a few years at best. No matter how much they boast, the global Air Force wallet are the most truthful indicators. No one is willing to spend real money on display models that only serve to fill the stages at parades. From radars and missiles to fighter jets, we are witnessing a comprehensive and systemic technical failure. But this is not the most alarming part. The most concerning issue is that these failures are rooted in a deeper, more fundamental flaw that prevents China's military-industrial complex from truly becoming powerful. The source of deception, from clumsy imitations to watered-down missiles. The technical flaws have become glaringly apparent. However, a deeper question arises. Why is this the case? Why is it that a country, which claims to be the second largest economy in the world, and a regime that invests national resources into military development, produces top-tier weapons that performs like low-quality industrial goods on the battlefield? The answer lies in two inherent sins of China's military-industrial complex. These are its starting point and ultimately its end. The first original mistake of China's military industry is that it is a copycat, not a true innovator. Its entire defense industry is built on dismantling and resembling foreign technology. The HQ-9 missile system bears the influence of Russia's S-300 and the US's Patriot. The J-11 is almost a direct copy of the Su-27, and the J-15 fighter on the aircraft carrier is derived from an incomplete Su-33 prototype purchased from Ukraine. However, while China can replicate the outer shell, it can never capture the soul. What is this soul? It's the data link honed over decades and thousands of flight hours. It's the operational doctrines tested by countless pilots. It's the complex system integration capabilities developed over generations by Western military industries, costing trillions of dollars. China's military industry has merely built the puzzle pieces, yet it believes it can dominate the entire game. It has copied others' work, but doesn't understand the problem-solving methodology or formula. The result is that its weapons can move but not win. If clumsy imitations is its inherent weakness, then institutional corruption is the cancer that causes it to rot from the inside out. In 2023, a report from US intelligence agency shocked the world and uncovered a staggering scandal at the heart of China's military. They discovered that China's rocket forces' strategic missiles were filled with water instead of fuel. Even the missile launch facility, crucial for nuclear retaliation, had covers of such poor quality that they could not open or launch effectively. This seemed unbelievable, but subsequent events provided the most powerful evidence for this intelligence. CCP leader Xi Jinping, who considered the rocket forces to be the core of the nation's power, conducted what can only be described as a devastating purge. From the commander-in-chief to political officers and senior generals, nearly the entire leadership of the rocket force was removed, including the newly appointed defense minister Li Shanfu, who disappeared from public attention. All this uncovers the harsh reality: the Chinese military force has rotted from the roots. How can we expect the conventional weapons it sells abroad to be of any real quality, if even the strategic nuclear weapons designed to deter the US and protect the regime are subpar? The monkey versions of equipment sold for foreign exchange are certainly not worth trusting. Clumsy imitation determines the ceiling for technical depth, while pervasive corruption has hollowed out its quality foundation. When these two original sins combine, they produce the Temu-level weapons we witnessed in Iran and Pakistan, shiny on the outside but rotting within. This brings us to the final question. If one day war breaks out in Taiwan Strait and these countries we've seen in the Middle East and South Asia face an opponent with better equipment, better training, and the full backing of the world's most powerful military force, how long will these weapons last? Xi Jinping's dream of a strong military relies on a war machine built by these counterfeit products. Could this dream be dragging China into an irreversible nightmare? The experience of Tehran and Islamabad have already provided the answer, in blood and ruins. Anyone who still believes in these Temu-level weapons will collapse with them.